All right, so we give praise, esteem, and honor to Allah. In the name of Yahuah HaMashiach. Pick this up in John chapter 5, verse 39. Search the scriptures, for in them you think you have eternal life, and they are they which testify of me. And you will not come to me that you might have life. I receive not honor from men, but I know you, that you have not the love of Elohim in you. I come in my Abba's name, and you receive me not. If another shall come in his own name, him you will receive. How can you believe which receive honor one from another, and not the honor that comes from Elohim only? Do not think that I will accuse you, the Abba. There's one that accused you, even Moses, in whom you trust. Had you believed Moses, you would have believed me, for he wrote of me. But if you believe not his writings, how should you believe my words? All esteem and praise the Abba and Shamayim in the name of Yahuah HaMashiach. Let's hit this Isaiah 34 and 16. Get this show on the road, man. Seek you out the book of Yahuah and read. No one of these shall fail, none shall want to make. For my mouth it have commanded, and his ruach have gathered them. Shalom, Mika. Shalom, Brother Marvin. Revelation 1 and 1. The revelation of Yahuah HaMashiach, which Elohim gave unto him, to show unto his servants things which must shortly come to pass. And he sent and signified by his Malachim unto his servant John, who bear record of the word of Elohim and of the testimony of Yahuah HaMashiach and of all the things that he saw. Baruch is he that read, and they that hear the words of the prophecy of this book, or the words of this prophecy, and keep the things which are written therein, for the time is at hand. Shalom, Jay. We're going to come back where we was at, Deuteronomy 25. Where we stopped at, Deuteronomy 25. Mm-hmm. That's what it was. Deuteronomy 25. We stopped in Deuteronomy 25 at verse, we was talking about them stripes. So let's come back to verse 1 again, because we got stuff to go back over as it pertains to them stripes. If there be controversy between men. Damn. Hold on, y'all. That boy done got locked up. Fired and locked up on the same day. That's unfortunate. These nuts. No, the coach from Michigan. Black dude. If there be a controversy between men and they come unto judgment, that the judges may judge them, that they shall justify the righteous and condemn the wicked. Now, we talked about that in regards to how wrong judgment proceeded. And it shall be, if the wicked man be worthy to be beaten, that the judge shall cause him to lie down and be beaten before his face. Shalom, Mother's Room. According to his fault by a certain number. 40 stripes he may give him and not exceed, lest he should exceed and beat him above those many stripes. Then your brother should seem vile unto you. We're going to look at what does it mean to be vile unto. And then we're going to get to the things in these stripes, more specifically in Ecclesiastes, things that we've talked about over the years. It's been a while since we've not that, I can't say that long, but it has been a little bit. When you look at vile, that is kala. That is the disgrace, and that's kuf, lamad, and hay. That is the disgrace, the dishonor, to be lightly esteemed, to be dishonored or despised, or to treat with contempt. So pause, because let's go to Isaiah 53. There will be several cross references to Isaiah 53, obviously. Verse 3. He is despised and rejected of men, a man of sorrows, acquainted with grief. We hid it as it were our faces from him. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Surely he has borne our griefs and carried our sorrows, yet we did esteem him stricken, smitten of Elohim, and afflicted. But he was wounded for our transgressions. He was bruised for our iniquities. The chastisement of our peace was upon him, and with his stripes we are healed. Now we talk about stripes, that's wounds, that's blows. I'll reiterate that word, and we'll go to Matthew 27. Now, of course, here you got stripes. You have kabura, rafa, that's bruise, stripe, wound, blow. That is Kot, Bat, U, Rosh, and Hay. That's blueness also of a wound. Bound with stripes or black and blue mark itself. Since we're talking about blueness of a wound, let's come over here to Proverbs 20 and 30 on general principle. But before we do that, get to verse 30. I'm going to go up a little bit. Let's go to verse 22. Because verse 23 is something that's in Deuteronomy 25, and we could go ahead and run that now. And I'll probably go back to Deuteronomy 25, cross-reference from both, knock them out at the same time. This is Proverbs chapter 20, verse 22. Say not you, I will recompense evil. Wait on Yahuah, and he shall save you. Now, pause. When you say not that I will recompense evil, I'm going to give you the definition of evil, which you know, which is ra, which is bad, evil, disagreeable, malignant, unpleasant, evil, bad, hurtful, unkind, vicious in disposition, evil deeds and actions, misery, injury, calamity, adversity, injury or wrong. So now I want you to look at something. Come over here to John 18. Because he waited on Yahuah, he didn't recompense evil right here in John 18. Boy, cut all that crying out. John 18 or what? 18? You can make it 18 and 12 on general principle. John 18 and 12. Then the band and the captain and the officer of the Yahudim took Yahushua and bound him and led him away to Annas first, for he was the father-in-law to Capheus, which was the high priest that same year. Now Capheus was he which gave counsel to the Yahudim that it was expedient that one man should die for the people. And Simon Peter followed Yahuah and another disciple. That disciple was known unto the high priest and went in with Yahushua into the palace of the high priest. But Peter stood at the door without. And then without that other disciple, which was known unto the high priest, and spake unto her that kept the door, and brought in Peter. Then saith the damsel that kept the door unto Peter, Are you not also of this man's disciples? He saith, I am not. And the servants and the officers stood there, who made a fire of coals, for it was cold, and they warmed themselves, and Peter stood with them and warmed himself. Then the high priest then asked Yahushua of his disciples and of his doctrine. Yahushua answered, I spake openly to the world. I ever taught in the synagogue and in the temple, whither the Yahudim always resort. And in secret have I said nothing. Why ask you me? Ask them which heard me, what I have said unto them. And behold, they know what I said. And when he had thus spoken, one of the officers which stood by struck Yahushua with the palm of his hand, saying, Answer you the high priest so? Yahushua answered, If I have spoken evil, bear witness of the evil. But if well, why smite you me? Now Annas sent him bound unto Capheus the high priest. Simon Peter stood and warmed himself, and they said therefore unto him, Are not you also of his disciples? He denied and said, I am not. One of the servants of the high priest, being kinsman, whose ear Peter cut off, saith, Did not I see you in the garden with him? Shalom, Sister Gina. Peter then denied again, and immediately the cock crew. So I'm going to back it up to where when he cut this man's ear off, we'll go back up to about verse 1 in this same chapter. Now, we ain't got to go to verse 1. We get right over here to verse 7, and then we'll swing back to Matthew 26 in regards to him not recompensing evil, but waiting on Yahuah and Yahuah saving him. This is John 18 and 6. As soon then as he had said unto them, I am, they went backwards and fell to the ground. Then he asked them again, Whom seek you? And they said, Yahushua of Nazareth. Yahushua answered, I have told you that I am. If you therefore you seek me, let those go their way, that the saying might be fulfilled, which he spake of them, which gave me, I have lost none. Then Simon Peter, having a sword, drew it and smote the high priest's servant and cut off his ear. The servant's name was named Malchus. Then said Yahushua unto Peter, Put up your sword into the sheath. The cup which my Abba have given me, shall I not drink it? So let's go back to Matthew 26. Now, what is the key component in this here? Just because people are rendering evil unto you does not mean that you have to pay them back the same injury and vileness that they are performing, but to wait on Yahuah. That is what you're supposed to be learning from that, seeing him actually do that in a much more intense extreme than many themselves are going to ever suffer. This is Matthew chapter 26 and verse 49. And forthwith he came to Yahushua and said, Hail, master. Yahushua said to him, Friend, wherefore are you come? Then came they, and they laid hands on Yahushua and took him. And behold, one of them which were with Yahushua stretched out hand and drew his sword and struck a servant of the high priest and smote off his ear. Then said Yahushua unto him, Put up again your sword into his place, for all they that take the sword shall perish for the sword. And that is a true story. That is a true story, Nisha. That is a true story. But nevertheless, and I'll read 1 Peter 1, the objective is to always let Mashiach come to mind, to let the word come to mind. That's why I say if we walk in the spirit, we ought to live in the spirit. And I'll read that in Galatians 5, because in the word, there has to come a point where your emotions no longer dictate how you behave. You know what I'm saying? Like yesterday, case in point, I told you about the dude got jammed up for not taking care of his kids per se, and that he pled guilty. So we open up a room really for the explicit purpose of not necessarily putting cuz out there like that, but for the purposes of reconciliation that he talked to his jit. You know what I'm saying? Because he hadn't seen or talked to his child in 3 years, according to them. You know what I'm talking about? But as people talking to people like, innocent people plead guilty and, the court system this, the court system, don't do that. Don't do that. And I'm like, man, there has to come a point in time, especially if you're talking about you a preacher of the word and a leader of an organization, man, don't nobody want to hear that, bro. Oh, you supposed to stood up and said, man, hey, man, I got to do better. You know what I'm saying? I shouldn't allow myself to get put in this position, because I asked him straight up. I say, bro, I went to trial on the case, and I know I did it. You know what I'm saying? I ain't take no plea, and I ran it, and I know I did it. So let me tell you, and I'm telling him this because, nigga, if I didn't do something, I'm not pleading guilty to nothing. You know what I'm saying? You're going to have to lock me up. You're going to have to do it. Because I promise to you, if I had been taking care of my child, there's no way I'm going to stand before God and man and plead guilty and say I didn't. That's just me personally. Now, I know a lot of people may not do that because of the whatever trepidation, I'm not going to say fear, whatever trepidation they may have as it pertains to going to jail. Because I know everybody don't want to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? Me, myself, even before the first time I ever went to jail, I ain't had no fear of that, because I'm not concerned with that. I'm not concerned with nobody doing nothing to me. But again, it's a different environment. Some people can't handle it. You know what I mean? There's a particular situation with one of my homeboys that if I would have been free, yeah, bro, don't fool with him. What's going on with you, man? Yeah, don't fool with bro. Bro can't do no time. And he ended up doing exactly what I thought he would do, and that's tell on everybody. You know what I'm saying? Everybody can't do that. But boy, I promise to you, boy, especially about my child, boy, I'm not pleading guilty to not taking care of my child, and I took care of my child. They're going to have to lock me up. They're going to have to give me that time. I'm not taking it. I'm not doing it. You know what I'm saying? That's just not going to happen. And everybody, and unfortunately, he was trying to justify himself in the eyesight of his peers and everybody else. Like, that's unnecessary. You know what I'm saying? That's unnecessary, because you don't need to prove nothing to me, because that ship done sailed. I just wanted to understand your thought process of why you pled guilty to something you didn't do. You know what I'm saying? I know why you pled guilty to something you didn't do, because you didn't want to go to jail. Now, you don't want to come out in the open and say that, but I know that's why you did that. You know what I'm saying? And you let your fear override if you ain't do something. And it's only 12 months. Nigga, I'm going to do 12 months, cuz. I promise you that. I'm going to do all 12 of them. You hear me? That ain't nothing but a year. I ain't scared of that. That's county time, bro. You ain't even going to prison. You ain't even going to prison. You still going to be local. You know what I'm saying? Nigga, you crazy as hell. But And it wasn't just for him, because it was just everybody, period, making excuses and all this type. But look here, man. Shalom, Brother Robert. Now, I done said this before, right? And we had this conversation earlier today also. If a woman is using your child as a weapon, because people like, man, no matter what, you should fight for your child. I shouldn't have to fight to see my child. The dog was like, I'll sleep outside to see my child. And I don't disagree with that at all. If your fear override the truth, your faith now perfected. Me personally, I believe he pled guilty to that because he did it. He kept talking to us, Shalom, Brother Marcus, about he got a recording. And my dog asked him, well, how did that recording do for you in court? It said it didn't help. Then he said, well, what we want to hear it for. You know what I'm talking about? Because this is what people don't understand. Because he had a criminal charge. And I told you this before, right? You could go to trial. The judge ain't got nothing to do with you getting convicted. I know people like to believe that, but a judge has nothing to do with you getting convicted. The judge has to do with your sentencing and theoretically allowing for a fair trial proceeding to go down. Man, when you go to trial, that's between the state, your lawyer, and the jury. Judge ain't got nothing to do with it. The judge ain't had nothing to do with the offer that they made you. The state made you that offer. You know what I'm talking about? Now, for whatever reason, you just didn't want to go to jail. But I'm telling you right now, boy, I'm going to jail about something I ain't do. You're going to have to lock me up. Because I'm going to fight it on appeal, because, boy, I ain't do that. I ain't do that. And I'm telling you, and boy, I went to trial on some junk I did, boy, because I sold them people that dope. Boy, you hear me? I looked at it as, hey, based on the evidence you got, I think I can win. Hey, don't do that. Throw it away. Throw it away. I don't want to hear all that. Leave him alone. Hey, leave him alone. Now, I mention that because when you multiply a situation as that, and even though it's as small as obviously a misdemeanor criminal offense, let's just read Revelation 2:10. Make it 2:8. Revelation 2:8. And unto the Malachim of the synagogue of Smyrna write, these things saith the first and the last, which was dead and is alive. Excuse me. I know your works and your tribulation and poverty, but you are rich. And the blasphemy of them which say they are Yahudim and are not, but of the synagogue of Hashatan. For none of those things which you shall suffer, behold, the devil shall cast of you into prison, that you may be tried, and you shall have tribulation 10 days, but be faithful unto death. I will give you a crown of life. Now, obviously, these two situations are not congruent. That's obvious. They're not congruent. But I'm mentioning this for this cause. If you are a servant of God and you are scared of being incarcerated at any time, I will just mention, man, your faith ain't perfected. You're going to have a problem. Now, I think in this instance, this gentleman, in my personal opinion, I believe he pled guilty because he knew he was wrong. So you didn't want to take the chance of getting more time. You understand? So there's certain things that come along with this particular way. Whether we live to be during it in that time, God knows. But there's a time coming where you're going to be persecuted and you may be incarcerated for the word that this man said. And you can't have no fear behind that. A lot of people don't want to go to jail, and I can understand why you wouldn't want to go to jail. You know what I'm saying? But boy, you got to be willing to suffer what come along with if you're innocent. But let's finish it. Matthew 26 and 53. He said, think you not that I can now pray to my Abba, and he shall presently give me more than 12 legions of Malachim? How then shall the scriptures be fulfilled that it shall be? Says we mentioned in this for is he's not recompensing the evil. He gonna let Yahuah save him. Let's go to 1 Peter 2. Hey, come over here and sit down. 2:21. And what you made? Oh, you put cheese on there. Your mama's sad. Go give her a hug, Joanne, and fart on her leg. I don't know what you're talking about. For even hereunto where you call, this is 1 Peter 2:21. Because of Mashiach also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps, who did no sin. Say tried by 12 or carried by 6 for my island. No doubt. You know what I'm saying? As I mentioned beforehand, like in that situation, you shouldn't come down to that situation. What I'm going to mention is because a brother mentioned that today. If you got a woman who weaponizing your children against you, trying to dictate to you how you can see your kids, it's got to be on her terms and this, that, and the third. Like I told y'all last week, man, you need to go to court. But what we were discussing today is the average person, the average man anyway, the average black man to be more specific, they don't really know what to do or how to do it. Peace, Brother Joseph, man. You know what I'm saying? And of course, you do have Google and things of this nature, but some people don't even have the mentality or thought process to Google that type of stuff. Mainly because, in general, our people have an aversion to the court system, period. They don't trust it. They don't really want nothing to do with it. You know, common misconception is that men don't have no rights when it comes down to paternity. And you'll never know until you do it. You know what I'm saying? Like, some dudes would just be like, I'm not finna fight with this woman and they gonna protect their mental health. You know what I'm saying? Because I wouldn't fight and go back and forth with no one. Well, I mentioned my dog was like, I'll sleep outside for my child. I'm not doing all that. You know what I'm saying? If I got to deal with a person that I have to do undercover recognizance, you know what I'm saying? Shalom, Brother Ernest, and sleep in my car just to catch a glimpse of my child. Bro, I'm just going to court. I'm not doing all that. You know what I'm saying? I'm not laying in no yard. I'm not doing all of that, bro. I shouldn't even have to do all that. And nobody should say you should fight for your child and believe that this is something that I should have to do instead of looking at what is this person doing, causing this nigga to have to sleep in his car just to see his child. That's unnecessary. And you should just go to court. You know what I'm saying? You should put yourself on child support, pay them people, go to court, get you some type of custody or visitation, because that's ridiculous. You know what I'm saying? I'm not doing all that. You say it's a problem when you have a angst against the system that you're living. It is a problem. You know what I'm saying? It is a problem. And like I say, most of our people, they don't want to fool with it. But boy, that doesn't sound good. But as no grown man, I'm not going to allow another adult to cause me to have to sleep in my car or sleep in the yard to see something that both of us made. I'm not doing all of that. That's unnecessary. You need to look at what's up with this other person that would cause them to what type of behavior are they doing where a person would have to do that. Because that's unnecessary. And that doesn't make me any better than anybody else for doing that. Because me personally, I'm not doing all that. Before I do that, we're going to court. They're just going to go to court. Now, imagine if you did all that and then you finally went to court and they did a paternity test and you found out that child wasn't yours. Come on, man. That's why it just better go to court and, hey, man, let the chips fall where they may. Nevertheless, 1 Peter 2:21. And in this age, you got a lot of information at your fingertips. You know what I'm saying? To be able to figure that out. Now, prayerfully, that's none of y'all's reality. But if you run across somebody and that is their reality, that's what you ought to tell them. Bro, just go to court, bro. Just go fight for custody, man. You know what I'm saying? So you don't need to be going through all that. He said, for even hereunto were you called, because of Mashiach also suffered for us, leaving us an example that you should follow his steps, who did no sin, neither was guile found in his mouth, who, when he was reviled, he reviled not again, and when he suffered, he threatened not, but committed himself to him that judges righteously. And that's the key component of that Proverbs. And read in Matthew 26 and read in John 18, because you got to commit yourself to him who judges righteously. Proverbs 20 and 22. Say not you, I will recompense evil. Wait on Yahuah, and he shall save you. Diverse weights are an abomination unto Yahuah, and a false balance is not good. Come back to Deuteronomy 25. And what I've mentioned is where the false balance come in at. Because unfortunately, what happens more often than not is when the situation go down between a man and a woman, people blame the woman and talk about how evil the woman is. This also goes back to what we were looking at in verse 1 of Deuteronomy 25. We're going to pick this up at verse 13. About not Shalom Shaul, about not condemning the justifying the righteous and condemning the wicked, and how he told you he wouldn't do that in Exodus 23, excuse me, and how we were talking reading in Habakkuk what he talking about the wrong judgment proceed. Because when you got a false balance and a false weight, you're going to give a false judgment. You know what I'm saying? And I go back to what we were talking about having respect of persons in judgment. Just because that's your homeboy don't mean that he right. Just because that's a woman don't mean that she wrong. That's why you, like he said in John 7, we don't judge according to appearance. You have to judge righteous judgment. You have to judge righteously, continually, because the judgment is not for man, it's for Yahuah. And that's what a lot of people don't do. Now, we were talking about something else, which is something that none of y'all will ever have a concern with, because it's not something that will ever be done around these parts. And that's having council sessions with people in public. But this stuff happens in certain segments of, I hate to say community, like how people use it. No, it's not, Joanne. So a lot of people, more specifically the women, these council sessions and things of this nature happen in public because they believe that they have no other recourse. Now, of course, most of you are not on a clubhouse or a Facebook where a lot of these people congregate and believe that they're actually in a physical congregation where such matters usually would be performed. But a lot of times, because individuals group and gather and they gonna judge for them amongst themselves, a lot of people feel they have no other recourse than doing such as that. I know that there's a certain level of confidentiality that come with counseling people that you just don't put their business out there, much less put they even allow a public counsel session. See, there's a difference of having something done publicly as fast like it reads in John 18. Okay, you went to them one-on-one, they didn't hear. You went and got 2-3 witnesses, they didn't hear. Then you bring it in front of the assembly. But that's not a council session. You know what I'm saying? That's dealing with an art. Let's take a look at that. Matthew 18, because there's a difference. Because some things are done publicly. I know everybody likes to look at, we should do stuff privately. Everything is not meant to be done privately. Some things you have to rebuke people before all that others might reverence Yahuah. And that's just how the game goes. But over here in Matthew 18 and 15, hey, sit down, Booster. Moreover, if your brother shall trespass against you, go and tell him his fault between you and him alone. And if he shall hear you, you have gained your brother. But if he will not hear, take with you one or two more, that in the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses every word may be established. And if he shall neglect to hear them, tell it unto the assembly. But if he neglect to hear the assembly, let him be unto you as a heathen and a publican. Now, what did that mean? Well, let's look at fault. So now you have trespass. That Greek word trespass Hamaranto, to be without a share in, to miss the mark, to err, to be mistaken, to miss or wander from the path of uprightness, to honor, to do or go wrong, or to wander from the law of God, to violate God's law, or to sin. So in this instance, it's to err or to be mistaken. If somebody does an error against you, whatever the case may be, that doesn't necessarily mean it is a sin, but it can be a sin. Just depends on what it is. Every trespass in this instance is not referring to somebody actually committing a sin. When you look at fault, that is elegiko, to convict, to refute. The suggestion of shame of the person convicted, to find fault with, to correct, to reprehend severely, to chide, to admonish, to reprove, to call to account, to show one's fault. So in this one here it's if somebody has whatever that he has done wrong. And see, I know that a lot of people like to look at things, but word-wise, there's a process. The process is you two handle it. And if you two can't handle it, if there's 2 or 3 people who can bear witness to it, then you get them to testify. Remember, when it comes to our particular way of living, it wasn't no jury trial. Because you ain't supposed to be lying. You ain't supposed to be bearing false witness. So if 2 or 3 people come and that establishes a matter, then that's supposed to be a true testimony. So if they're saying you brought 2 or 3 people and to bring a witness, and then they didn't, and you didn't hear that testimony, then he say bring it to the whole congregation. And this is where 1 Corinthians 6 come in. So let's take a look at that to rehash your mind on that. 1 Corinthians 6 and 1. Dare any of you having a matter against another go to law before the unjust and not before the saints? Now, let's look at go to law. When you look at go to law, crino. In this instance, because there's multiple definitions, we want to get to the 5th definition, which is the judge, to pronounce an opinion concerning right or wrong, to be judged, to summon to trial that one's case may be examined and pass judgment upon it, to pronounce judgment, to subject to censure. Censure in this instance is to punish. So that's what it means to go to law. You're going to bring something like we read in Matthew 18 to sinners and not to the faithful, because that's what it's talking about with unjust. Those who violate or violate just, the unrighteous, the sinful. Verse 2, 1 Corinthians 6. Do you not know that the saints shall judge the world, and the world shall be judged by you? Are you unworthy to judge the smallest matters? Know you not that we shall judge Malachim? How much more the things pertaining to this life? If then you have judgments of things pertaining to this life, set them to judge who are least esteemed in the assembly. So he telling you in this instance, hey man, get the people who have the least amount of honor in the congregation. That word there for the least esteemed is exatheneho, to make of no account, to despise utterly, or the least esteemed. This is verse 5. I speak to your shame. Is it so that there is not a wise man among you? No, not one that should be able to judge between his brethren. But brother, go to law with brother, and that before the unbelievers. Now, therefore, there is utterly a fault among you, because you go to law with one another. Why do you not rather take wrong? Why do you not rather suffer yourselves to be defrauded? Nay, you do wrong and defraud, and that your brethren. Now, when he tell you that you go to law with your brother, and he say on top of that, you do this in front of unbelievers. Unbelievers here is apistos, which is unbelieving, without trust in God, incredulous, unfaithful, and they are not to be trusted, an infidel. That takes you back to Psalms 1 and 1. To not walk in the counsel of the ungodly. And he says, since you would utterly, if there's a fault among you, why don't you just accept that you're wrong instead of doing this in this particular instance? Now, we're going to come back to what that is, Deuteronomy 25. And I mention this because of the fault battle, but this is how stuff's supposed to be done. See, like I told you before, if somebody done did something to you, all that, mentioning it to this person and mentioning it to that person, that's not biblically, not even going to say biblically, that's not the godly way to do that. That's not how you've been instructed to do something. If somebody did something to you, you need to go holler at them. And if they don't want to listen to what you got to say, then you got witnesses, then you need to go get them. And if they don't want to hear them witnesses, you need to bring that before the whole body of believers, wherever you congregate at. That's how that's supposed to be done. And if you don't want to do that, then it's not worth mentioning. Because that means you don't want to do things according to how the man laid it out. You want to do it how you want to do it. You can't come to this man's doorstep and bring the stuff you did in the world in his house. Because all that's going to do is cause disorder. That's not how that's supposed to be done. You know what I'm talking about? See, let's go to Luke 17. And people don't be wanting to hear that. But that's how that's done. That's why I tell you, don't come and tell me this person did this or did that or they did this to you. Because did you go tell them that? Because you want me to do something about it. I'm not going to do nothing about it. We're going to do it how this man say to do it. And if it's that serious, then you got to bring that person in front of this whole congregation and say they did this, and I'm going to let somebody else judge it. I ain't got to judge it. Because that's how he told you to do it. We're going to be wanting to do that. And I know we get that from other situations and circumstances as far as congregations is concerned. But now you ain't supposed to come tell me about nobody doing nothing. You know what I'm talking about? You're supposed to bring him in front of everybody. It's not something for me isolated to handle if there's an alt between two people. No, that's not how that works. But the reason why we don't be want to do that is you be like, I don't want to put my business out there. Then what you telling me for? You know what I'm saying? Because that's not how he told you to do it, because he want that to be put out there. He want that to be done. If this person really did something to you and they got to come in front of this whole congregation, that this person would humble themselves, because now everybody got to know they out of pocket. And if they still don't want to humble themselves that they out of pocket, then he said you could treat them like a heathen man in the public, and you ain't got to be fooled up with them no more. But see, if you don't go through that process, then if you try to treat them like a heathen man in the public, you wrong. Oh, that boy tired. Huh? He took a nap. That boy just pissing. Luke 17:1. Then he said unto the disciple, it is impossible, but that offenses will come. But woe through whom they come. It is better for him that a millstone was hanged about his neck and cast into the sea, that he should offend one of these little ones. Take heed to yourselves. If your brother trespass against you, rebuke him. And if he repent, forgive him. And if he trespass against you 7 times in a day, and 7 times in a day turn again to you, saying, I repent, you shall forgive him. Now let's go to the law in Matthew 19:17, the way you see where it's come from. And all this is establishing about not having a false balance and a false weight, because that's an abomination to Yahuah. That's not something how we're supposed to move. But then also, it's just showing you how he wants you to deal with each other. I'm going to go all the way back to, oh, God damn it. Into verse 14. Now we don't need that. Verse 15. You shall do no unrighteousness in judgment. You shall not respect the person of the poor, nor honor the person of the mighty. In righteousness shall you judge your neighbor. You shall not go up and down as a talebearer or a slanderer among your people. Neither shall you stand against the blood of your neighbor. I am Yahuah. You shall not hate your brother in your heart. You shall anywise rebuke your neighbor, and not suffer sin upon him. You shall not avenge nor bear any grudge against the sons of your people, but you shall love your neighbor as yourself. I am Yahuah. Now, this is what he done laid out, how he wanted to move. Now, this ain't the first time I mentioned that. I mentioned it right now, really, because we're in Deuteronomy 25. But, yeah, that's how that's supposed to be done, though. You know what I'm talking about? And a lot of times we don't be wanting to do that. You want to talk to the people who you comfortable with. I don't know what you tell them. It tell you that in Proverbs, man, debate your cause with your neighbor. If your brother, your sister did X, Y, Z, you need to go talk to them. I'm talking about, listen, for the women, I get that you married. You need to go talk to that woman yourself. The reason why I tell you this here, because your husband can't answer for you on the day of judgment. He can't answer for you. You know what I'm saying? And it causes to not have no confusion in the body. If somebody did something to you, you need to go holler at them one-on-one, period, point blank. That's what you need to go do. Because each and every one of them, matter of fact, let me read this in Colossians. Come over here to Colossians. And it leads into the aspect of the character of God. And when I say that, I'm talking about Yahushua specifically and exactly what he wants you to do and how he wants you to do it. This is Colossians chapter 3, verse 11. You can make it verse 10. Matter of fact, make it 9. He say, lie, this is Colossians 3 and 9. Lie not one to another, saying that you put off the old man with his deeds, and having put on the new man, which is renewed in knowledge after the image of him that created him. Where there is neither Greek nor Yahudim, circumcision nor uncircumcision, barbarian, Scythian, bond nor free, but a Mashiach is all in all. Put on therefore as the elect, or the chosen, or the Bakar of Elohim, Kadash and beloved, bowels of mercies, kindness, humbleness of mind, meekness, long suffering, forbearing one another, forgiving one another. And if any man have a quarrel against any, even as a Mashiach forgave you, so also do you. And above all these things, put on love, which is the bond of perfectness. What does that mean to be forbearing? Because remember, he told us that the world would know that we are his disciples if we love one another. So when you look at forbearing, which is enhiko, to sustain, to bear, to endure, to suffer. So he say that you should endure or suffer one another. And then, of course, forgiving is obviously. Now, when we look at what is a quarrel in this instance, mamfe, to have a complaint against anyone or to blame, a fault, a quarrel. Pretty much going back to what we see in the Matthew 18. If you got a quarrel against somebody, that man say forgive him. Now, this is showing you in the aspect of as what we can see, because everybody knows if you don't forgive your enemy, your neighbor's trespasses, he won't forgive yours. But it's also to show the character of God. And what does that take us back to? Yahuah Elohim, merciful, gracious, abundant in goodness and truth, long suffering, showing mercy unto thousands, forgiving sin, iniquity, and transgression. Or be you perfect as your Father in heaven is perfect, showing a complete and utter manifestation of his complete spirit and character. Now, I mentioned Galatians 5, right? To go back to what Nisha mentioned about what that was, how that can be very difficult in the flesh to do. But the difficulty comes in that, honestly, and it's not a personal thing per se. This is something that's deal with every man and every woman under heaven. It's allowing your emotions to dictate and rule. And this emotion, in this instance, could be anger, it could be resentment, frustration, whatever the case may be, and you're allowing that to dictate. Like that was Crystal sent me the video, the chick from what's that lady name is? Y'all know the dark. If you ever seen the reels, tonight's conversation, and you see the dark-skinned lady, Kitty, that's her name. Her name was escaping me. And the lady asked something about her husband throws verses at her from the script about submission, but he don't serve God himself. And then she went on a normal tirade of the man should be submitting and submit one to another. But this is the root of the matter. Whether your husband submit to God or not, that's not what God told you to do. That's not the disclaimer that he put on that. He said, why submit unto your husbands and everything? Because your obedience is not contingent on what your husband do. Your obedience is contingent on what God told you to do. Whether your husband does or doesn't do ain't got nothing to do with you. Because when you stand before that judgment seat to give answer for everything you've done in his body, he's not going to ask you about what somebody else did to cause you not to do what he commanded you to do. As Paul wrote in another epistle letter, he said, do all things not unto man, but as unto the Lord. And that's people's biggest problem, is you do things unto man. So that means if man don't do X, Y, Z, then you're going to use that as your justification in your mind to not do what God told you to do. Whatever Elohim told you to do, what Yahuah told you to do, what Yahushua told you to do, that's what you're supposed to do. He didn't say husbands love your wives as a Mashiach love the assembly based on whether she submit to you or not. That's not what he told you. Because he loved Yasharal whether Yasharal submitted to him or not. That had nothing to do with what he was going to do. And the minute you allow somebody else's behavior to dictate what you're going to do, you're not the man or the woman or the adult or have the maturity that you claim to have. And you definitely can't say you were serving a God, because you mean to tell me the minute somebody don't do something how you want them to do it or what you believe they should do, that means you didn't want to do it in the first place. And that's you looking for your out. Oh, see, I can't submit to my husband because he don't submit to God. That means you never wanted to. That means you never wanted to. Because it doesn't matter what other people do. What did Yahuah tell you to do? Now the question is, here always, or your question gone. You said, what if the person or people keep doing it? Again, that's not what he said. Now, again, if you're talking about people who not in the world, that's a different standard. You know what I'm talking about? Because you can't bring them in front of no assembly. You know what I'm saying? Your question ain't showing though. That junk just gone. I can only see it here at the bottom. I can't see the rest of it. You know what I'm talking about? But the aspect, you heard what he said. That man say if they come back and repent, he said you're supposed to forgive him every time. But when you're dealing with you in the word though, there's a process that you got to go through. Go to them yourself. They don't hear you, go get 2-3 witnesses. If they don't want to hear the 2-3 witnesses, bring them in front of the whole congregation. If they don't want to hear the whole congregation, treat them as a heathen man and a publican. That's how we deal with that. Nobody wants to do that. So when you don't want to do that, then you have to suffer what happens for not doing it like he told you to do it. Now, if you're dealing with somebody who's not in the word, then ain't really no way that you could deal with that, because that person's not subject to God anyway. So they're not going to care what the assembly has to say in the first place. That's what we just read in 1 Corinthians 6. If a person is at a fault, then let the least in the body judge that matter. Like there's a way to deal with it for people who are in the word, who are believers in the word. But you have to follow the protocol. Got to follow the protocol. You got to do it like you said, do it. Not do it how you want to do it. Not do it because, no, I know they changed it. Okay, now I can see the rest of it that came up. He said, so what if the person or people repeat the same behavior or offenses? I'm not going against the godly thing of forgiving, but I believe it's best not to keep giving. So that's the point. This is the point. God, dog it. God dang. Oh, I thought I ended the room. This is the point. You have to talk about, are you dealing with a sinner? Or are you dealing with somebody who in the word? Because if you're dealing with a sinner, they're not subject to the rules of God. People in the word, you got to do it like he told you to do it. You got to do it exactly what we just enumerated. You got to go to them one-on-one. If they don't want to hear that, then you go get 2 or 3 witnesses for them to hear that. If they don't, now the 2 or 3 witnesses have to bear witness to the offense. If the 2 to 3 witnesses don't bear witness to the offense, then you have to bring them in front of the whole entire assembly. And that last one is what people don't want to do, because you want to keep everything private. You know what I'm saying? That's not how he told us to do it. That person in the word, you got to bring in front of the whole congregation, which is part of the reason, not saying you per se, this is part of the reason why a lot of people don't want to be a part of congregations, because a lot of people don't want the personal accountability that's going to come with being in one. You know what I'm saying? 2 dudes I know, was shooting at each other. I ain't gonna say the first dude was shooting at the second dude, but I knew the second dude would probably perceive that he was shooting at him. You know what I'm saying? But that's why a lot of dudes they want to teach the word, but they don't want to be over a group of people and have to serve them, because people look at, if you're over them, it's some type of rulership, but you're really serving these people. So it's not rulership, because you have a responsibility, a duty to individuals that really have nothing to do with the elevation of yourself. But a lot of individuals don't want to deal with that because they don't want the responsibility of being responsible for other people. You know what I'm saying? And I've told y'all this before. It's very weird if you got a dude that he want to preach on the internet, but nobody listens to him in real life. And you always use the out as your home is supposed to be your first ministry. No, it's not. Yahuah is supposed to be in your first ministry before you got a wife. If your service that was dependent on you getting a spouse, you wasn't never a servant to begin with. You know what I'm saying? To keep it a bean. So you mean to tell me you had to wait till you got somebody to get some yams and have some churn before you understood what it was to serve? Because that's all ministry mean, is to serve. You know what I'm talking about? That's what it in Hebrew is sharath. That just means to serve. Your first ministry is not your home, because you should have had a ministry before you got a wife. And I ain't talking about necessarily dispensing no word. Because before you got a wife, you should have knew how to serve before that. Not get a wife and figure it out. That's a cop-out. That's a cop-out. You know what I'm saying? Because truth be told, your first ministry should be to your people. That's why you say to love your neighbor as you love yourself. That should have been your first ministry, is to your people as a whole, not to your spouse. That's selfish as hell. Because that means the only thing you're concerned with is your household. That's not what that man taught you. But nevertheless, bro, put on 1 John 1 and 9. Let me grab that real quick. But I'm gonna let that lay where it's at. If we confess our sins, he is faithful and just to forgive us our sins and to cleanse us from all unrighteousness. Indeed. But the purpose of when there's an ought is to rebuke before all that others may fear. But we don't be wanting to do that because you, quote unquote, don't want people in your business, but yet you are offended that somebody is doing something. Well, how are they going to be held accountable? You know what I'm saying? Because that's an accountability thing of why he's telling you, bring them in front of everybody. If they don't want to hear you and they don't want to hear the 2 to 3 witnesses because you're trying to reconcile the matter. You know what I'm saying? Now, he said if that person offends you and they repent, he said you got to forgive them. And you got to keep it pushing. Because we can't turn around, of course, what you know in the text, and look at you offending God and you want him to forgive you. You don't want him to have that same attitude towards you. You feel me? Because him keeping us alive is giving you grounds to continue to sin against him, but yet he don't kill you. You know what I'm talking about? So again, it goes back to what we were just mentioning about be you perfect like your Father in heaven is perfect. It's crafting the thought process and the mentality of your God and actually letting that be a literal manifestation in how you conduct yourself. Also looking back to how you will not recompense evil with evil, but let Yahuah save you. And then also, you know, if your enemy be hungry, give him something to drink. I mean, give him some bread to eat. And if he be thirsty, give him milk to drink. In doing so, you're pouring coals of fire upon his head. You know what I'm saying? It's about the tactics and skill. Or the same way we just read in Colossians, if you have a quarrel against one another, he say suffer each other and forgive each other as he did you. So do you. The whole objective is for us to become what is in Exodus 34, 6 and 7. To become that. You feel me? And that's not easy to do when you allow what other people do to affect you in a particular fashion. You know what I'm saying? Because as long as people can have the ability to affect your mood, then they're going to have power over you, which means your flesh going to have power over you. And I'm going to be honest with you. Anytime you're not in control of your flesh, that leaves you open for any manipulation tactics of the adversary at any given time. Because when you're moving in the flesh, you're susceptible to Satan. That's why when he say he come, he said you got to resist him steadfast in the faith. That's something that you have to keep at the forefront of your mind. Now, I just read an article the other day where it says that men are more inclined to forgive and forget when it comes to certain things with their spouse than women are. Because I know that y'all carry stuff for a long period of time. You know what I'm saying? Somebody could do something to be like, okay, whoop, that junk over with, squared out. I'm done. I ain't thinking about it. I ain't dwelling on it. I'm not finna bring it back up. I ain't finna do none of that. You know what I'm saying? And when you look at that as Porphy's in the words, he said, I blot out your transgressions like a thick cloud. You know what I'm saying? Ladies tend to stew on stuff more and overanalyze every single solitary thing. And it allows and develops a level of resentment that turns to malice. and things of that nature. You know what I'm saying? When it's simple as, hey man, they let that junk go. Like, what you walking around here mad for? Or what you walk around here carrying that for? Because it's not hurting them, it's hurting you. Or a lot of times ladies don't realize, okay, if this person is doing this, then you adjust the interaction, which goes back to us when we read the Romans 16. Mark them which cause divisions and go contrary to the doctrine that you have received. I've taken note, I move accordingly. If this person has offended you, then you need to go to them one-on-one. And if they don't want to hear you, then you need to go get 2-3 witnesses. And if they don't want to hear that, then you need to bring them to the assembly. And if they don't want to hear the assembly, then you can treat them like a hidden man in the public, and you ain't got to be fooled up with them. That's what the Lord told us to do. But people don't do that. You know what I'm saying? And that's it. And that's how it's handled. You know what I'm saying? Keep it real simple. My God, today. Yeah, man. You know what I'm saying? That's why the law tell you don't bear a grudge against your neighbor. Now that word grudge translates to something else. Let me give you what it translates to. Because it don't translate to what we would commonly think a grudge is. But he tell you don't seek no revenge. And when you look at grudge, it's natar, which is about the same, which is to guard, to reserve, to maintain, to keep, or to maintain, or to cherish anger, or to guard or hold anger. Tell you don't do it. You know what I'm saying? So when you see what Paul writing in Colossians as it pertains to the Lord, that's why. And you know what else that takes to? Yahuah say, I will not chide forever, nor will I hold my anger forever. So when he's telling you not to do that, he ain't telling you to do something that he don't do. And again, this is to develop the essence of his character. Let me find the verse where it's at real quick. I think it's in Jeremiah. I'm not going to use this song. Hold on. Or even like it says in Psalms 30. His anger may endure for a night, but joy come in the morning. When you look at Psalms 103:8, when he tell you that Yahuah is merciful and gracious and slow to anger and plenteous in mercy. That's why he tell you that he say wrath work not the righteousness of God. So being slow to wrath is a part of the aspects of being manifestation of his character. And I'm going to read this in Galatians 5 in a moment. And it's the part of letting your flesh subside and letting the Ruach and the word of God abide. So that means you have to have less of self and more of him. And a lot of times we don't do that because we like to hold on to certain things at times. And it doesn't mean that you are overly wicked because you do that. It just means that you're human. So what that means is that you have to come into control of your flesh and not let your flesh be the driving force of how you respond to things. I can't find the verse. And that just comes from each and every single day yielding to the word, to be honest with you. You know what I'm saying? It's a process thing, you know what I'm saying? But he tell you then, I don't hold my anger forever. He said, in fact, I think it's Jeremiah 3 that I want. That's just stirring in my brain. Let me look and see. Lord. Come on, Jeremiah 3:12. Because trust me, I get it. I understand. People do stuff and you mad, you're upset. They don't make you nothing but a human being. That's what it was. Psalms 103:9. I ain't read verse 8. Verse 9 say he will not always chide, neither will he keep his anger forever. Now, when we look at what does it mean to chide, and I'm going to read Jeremiah 3 and 12 in just a moment. We still holding Deuteronomy 25, by the way. I still got to hit some stuff with these. And that's contend, which is shy, read, contend, to have a quarrel, to make a complaint. He will not always have a complaint, and he won't always guard or hold anger. So you read Jeremiah 3 and 12, go and proclaim these words toward the north and say, return you backsliding Yasharal, saith Yahuah, I will not cause my anger to fall upon you, for I am merciful, saith Yahuah. I will not keep anger forever. You say he's not going to guard it. He's not going to reserve it. He's not going to maintain it. You know what I'm saying? So when we read that in Leviticus 19, he's basically instructing you to be you perfect like your Father in heaven is perfect. He's instructing you to have his same character. When we come over here to Galatians chapter 5, verse 13. For brethren, you have been called unto liberty. Only use not liberty for an occasion to the flesh, but by love serve one another. Just because we have freedom in the Mashiach does not mean that we should give our flesh opportunity. You say by love we should serve one another. For all the laws fulfilled in one word, in this, you shall love your neighbor as yourself. But if you bite and devour one another, take heed that you be not consumed one of another. I say then, walk in the Ruach, and you shall not fulfill the lust of the flesh. For the flesh lusts against the Ruach, and the Ruach against the flesh, and these are contrary the one to another, so that you cannot do the things that you would. But if you be led by the Ruach, you are not under the law. Death have no dominion over you. So, what he said, if you walk in the Spirit, you won't fulfill the lust of the flesh. Which is why I say, be you angry and sin not. Because you can be angry, but if you're walking in the Ruach, you won't fulfill that desire in the flesh to punch this nigga in the face, or to cuss this person out, or to take it further than that. That's why he said, got to be born again. And those that worship him must worship him in Ruach and in truth. So, let's come back to Deuteronomy 25. I believe that's where we was at. I hit other stuff and lost what I had on this app. That's unfortunate. Oh, it's Proverbs 20. And I ain't even got all the way to the blueness of the wound of what I came here for, talking about to get us to the stripes. Now, I read Proverbs 25 and 23, where it mentioned that a diverse weights are an abomination unto Yahuah, and a false balance is not good. So, what is a false balance? Balance, obviously, is maznaim, meme, aleph, zayin, u, and meme. This is a scales or a balance or a pair of scales. So when you have a false balance, which is mirmah, that's deceit or treachery. That is meme, raj, meme, and hey. So you have a treacherous balance. That means your balance is built in deceit. Now, when he's telling you not to have a diverse weights, it's a ben, which is a stone, large or small. Stone is a material, a precious stone, or a plummet made of metal. So when you're looking at this here, right, don't want no diverse weights. Now, of course, Yahushua is the chief cornerstone, but that's a whole nother conversation. He said, but having diverse. Now, it's just one whole word. And so you can't have a false weight that's detestable to this man. When you have a balance that is of treachery, that is treacherous to this man. So when we come back to Deuteronomy 25, and you look at what he enumerates here in 25 and 13, you shall not have in your bag a diverse weight, great and small. What do you think that he's telling you about that when he say you won't have this in your bag? Of course, this word is referring to a stone. And again, it's going to be the same thing. A ben, whether gadol or katan, can't have, which is great or little, can't have that in your bag. He said you shall not have in your house diverse measures, great and small. Now, again, this is taking you back to not having respect. Let's go to the Epistle of James so you can see what we're talking about. In actuality and practicality and execution. Come on, the Epistle of James 2 and 1. My brethren, have not the faith of our Lord Yahushua HaMashiach, the Lord of esteem, with respective persons. For if there come into your assembly a man with a gold ring and goodly apparel, there come in also a poor man in vile raiment, and you have respect to him that wear the gay clothing, and say unto him that sit you here in a good place, and say to the poor, stand you here or sit under my footstool, are you not then partial in yourselves, and are become judges of evil thoughts? Hearken, my beloved brethren, have not Elohim chosen the poor of this world, rich in faith, heirs of the kingdom which he hath promised unto them that love him? But you have despised the poor. Do not rich men oppress you and draw you before the judgment seats? Do not they blaspheme that worthy name by which you are called? If you fulfill the royal law according to the scripture, you shall love your neighbor as yourself, you do well. But if you have respect to persons, you commit sin and are convinced of the law as transgressors. Whosoever shall keep the whole law yet offend in one point is guilty of all. For he that said, do not commit adultery, also said, do not kill. Now, if you commit no adultery, yet if you kill, you are become a transgressor of the law. So speak you and so do, as they that shall be judged by the law of liberty. For he shall have judgment without mercy who have showed no mercy, and mercy rejoice against judgment, which goes back to the point that we were looking at with forgiving one another, loving one another, where mercy rejoice against judgment. We seen that with David. Same token that we see that in regard to Mashiach raising from the dead. The same aspect that if you receive the Ruach HaKodesh, you see that mercy rejoice against judgment, because the mercy of God is with you by faith, and it rejoices against the judgment of death. But individuals don't want to look at it that way. So what we seeing in what he's enumerating here in this epistle letter is when he's telling you, man, you can't have no diverse weights, no false balances, great or small in your house. You can't have that. You know what I'm saying? Which is coming into having respect to persons you're going to have for false judgment. And when you have a false judgment, that's an abomination. Or like we read last week, you don't judge for man, you judge for God. What are we talking about judge? We talking about mishpat. That's the ability to determine between what's right and wrong. That's why he said, you know what I'm saying, should not the saints be able to judge the least of you, judge the least of matters? So I say set the least esteemed in the church and let him judge it. Like I said, the thought process comes into basically because how we've been in America, and I would wager, and those of you who have greater experience in this can speak to this better than I can, that you feel like, okay, the pastors and the deacons and all that, they supposed to judge everything. That's why you bring them everything. But word-wise, that's not the case. That's not how they did things in the assemblies that you see set up, who he writing to. Everything don't fall in the pastor's lap, and he just supposed to deal with everything, and he do everything. This is a collective deal, and everybody should know how to judge a matter, because everybody's sitting here hearing the word, and everybody professing to be, I have faith and I'm filled with the spirit and this, that, and the third, and you can't judge nothing. So you can't tell me what's right and what's wrong according to the text. You don't got the ability to do that. Everybody's supposed to have the ability to do that, because everybody's sitting there week in and week out hearing the same word. Amen. Y'all forbid. Everybody should be able to do that. Let me read the John 7 real quick. Boopster. You was in there with bigger Boopster? So we come over here to John 7, right? 7 and 20. The people answered and said, you have a devil. Who go about to kill you? Yahushua answered and said unto them, I have done one work, and you all marvel. Moses therefore gave unto you circumcision, not because it is of Moses, but of the Father, which is Genesis 17. You know, he gave that to Abraham. And you on the Shabbat circumcise a man. If a man on the Shabbat day receives circumcision, that the law of Moses should not be broken, are you angry at me because I have made a man every whit whole on Shabbat? Judge not according to the appearance, but judge righteous judgment. You know what I'm saying? A lot of times we be judging stuff according to how it looks, and not according to the judgment that this man laid out of what's right and what's wrong. What you think is right or wrong is inconsequential and irrelevant. You know what I'm saying? If you're going to claim to be godly, what you think is right or wrong does not matter. What does he determine to be right or wrong? And we're going to judge things according to that. And when you don't do that, that means you're moving with a false balance and a false weight. And that man finds that to be abominable. And of course, you know, in Revelation, he say nothing that abominable will enter into the city. You can't do that. Come back to Deuteronomy 25. and 13. One more time. Hey, freak. You shall not have in your bag diverse weights from a great and a small. You shall not have in your house diverse measures of great and a small. You shall have a perfect and just weight, a perfect and just measure shall you have, that your days may be lengthened in the land which Yahuah your Elohim give you. Now, I'm going to give you the definition of the word. That man said you shall have a perfect and just weight. You shall have a shalem sadak. A shalem sadak stone. Shalem or shalom, and this is complete. Say, some of my family who claim to be believers told me, who are we to judge concerning homosexuality in the church? That's amazing. That's amazing. I'll show you how to, well, at least the answer for yourself. Now, see, now when you look at that, who are we to judge homosexuality in the church? You're supposed to judge it, because there's no way that a homosexual should be sitting in the assembly. Because what did Paul tell you in 1 Corinthians 5? To with such a person not to eat. Let me read that real fast, because that's crazy. That's crazy for a person to say that. And you know why people say these things? Because nobody wants to ruffle feathers, because nobody wants to hold anybody accountable. You know what I'm saying? Because you're supposed to say something about a homosexual in there, an adulterer in there, a whoremonger in there, a fornicator in there, an idolater in there, a liar in there. This thought process that we just supposed to be sitting in here and not say nothing is egregious, because the book don't teach that. Remember, Psalms 1:1 say, blessed are those who walk not in the counsel of the ungodly, nor go into the way of sinners. We're not supposed to be partakers in that. And how people manipulate you into that is saying Jesus sat with sinners. No, he sat and taught these people the word, and he was teaching them to turn. God is not going to sit in the midst of uncleanliness. See, it's one thing where you be like, oh, we got to let people come in. If they outside the house and they come inside the house, then they would know in order to stay in the house, you have to shoot. There has to be some teshuvah. You have to repent. You have to turn. You can't come in here and stay like that and think that he's going to accept it, because he's not. Because that means whatever word is being preached is completely ineffective at the objective of what the gospel is supposed to do, which is to cause repentance. Because there's no way that a person should be able to sit in there knowing that somebody putting hot dogs in his buns and he cool with being here. The same way that no man should be sleeping with men's wives in there and should feel comfortable being there. No man who's beating on his wife they shouldn't feel comfortable being there, that, okay, this is the place for me. No, all this talk about we got to be accepted. I'm not accepting that, because God is not accepting that. You're going to have to change your behavior. Now listen what this man told these people to do. This is 1 Corinthians 5:9. I wrote to you in an epistle to not company with fornicators. Now, y'all know fornication runs a gambit of things that are contained in Leviticus. It is just not having sex and not being married. That is not the definition of fornication. Now, the Greek word for fornicate is pornos, which is a man who prostitutes his body to another lust for hire, a male prostitute. A man who indulges in unlawful sexual intercourse, a fornicator. So when you look at that, what is unlawful sexual intercourse? It is everything laid out in Leviticus 18 and Leviticus 20. That is unlawful sexual intercourse. That means by definition, you are a fornicator if you have sex with a woman while she's on her menstrual cycle. By definition, you are a fornicator. If you have sex with a dog, by definition, you are a fornicator. You know what I'm talking about? But let's continue. I wrote to you in an epistle to not company with fornicators, yet not altogether with the fornicators of this world, or with the covetous, or extortioners, or with idolaters, for then you must needs to go out of the world. Now he said, yet not altogether the fornicators of this world, because he said then you'd have to die. Because if you go outside, there's going to be covetous and extortioners and idolaters and all that. He's telling you, man, I'm telling you, don't even eat with these people. Now he take it a step further. Now I've written unto you to not keep company if any man that is called a brother be a fornicator or a covetous or an idolater or a railer or a drunkard or an extortioner, with such a one not to eat. In Greek, what does it mean to keep company? Soon, anamagunami, which is to keep company with, to be intimate with one. Or what the Hebrew word would be is re'ah, which would be a friend. I wouldn't want you to be intimately involved with people who do such things. So I don't even know how somebody could say that we shouldn't be judging the concerning homosexuality in the church, because this man wrote to this congregation in Corinth, to be intimate with an individual like that. And you can't get no more intimate than fellowshipping with each other in the house of God, knowing this man finna go around here and puff a Peter. That's crazy. Or she finna go around here and munch on a carpet. That's insane. That's crazy. Verse 12, 1 Corinthians 5. For what have I to do to judge them that are also without? Do you not judge them that are within? But them that are without, Elohim judge. Therefore, put away from among yourselves that wicked person. Now, I had a conversation on Threads with somebody about this because they were talking about Faith Evans allegedly having sex with Pop. I know most of y'all have heard Hit 'Em Up. We don't have to re-enumerate what's in that particular record. You familiar with Hit 'Em Up, ain't it? You ain't familiar with Hit 'Em Up. Give me a line from the song then. Give me a line.
You say I'm familiar with it. You ain't say do I know it.
You know how that man opened up that song? That's why I blanked your wife, you fat Mitch. I say, my God, the disrespect. Imagine being 16 years old, 1996, hearing that record. That's the opening line. And using his own beat to diss him on. But nevertheless, the lady was talking about why is people mad at Faith for doing this when she say Faith from Lakeland, you believe, Pop? What that's stupid. I ain't know Faith was from Lakeland, man. I thought she was from up north. You knew that?
Yeah, my friend, that's
Yeah, if she's from Lakeland, I believe it too. You know what I'm talking about? And not because she's from Lakeland, but because she's from Florida. You know what I'm talking about? And you know how some Florida women get down. But nevertheless, she was like, because he was cheating on her. And I'm like, people weren't mad at Faith for cheating on him. You cheated on him with an eye. You a real maggot for doing that. Because you could have went and had conjugals with anybody. You're going to do it with somebody who's disrespecting me on a regular basis. And the lady was like, well, he's a maggot for cheating on his wife, and that make him an adversary against God. And I only mention this because of what we just read in Corinthians, right? Indeed, first off, and we ain't got to say the rest, right? Is that people in the word like to hold people who are not in the word to the standard of the word, but relax the standard of the word for people who inside the house. I have never understood that. How do you have so much doggone vitriol for people outside the house and are passive for people in it? I say, baby, we can't hold Big to no standard or no word, because Big was an adversary to God before he married Faith, based on his conduct. It doesn't matter if you like this music. The facts is what the facts are. Because we were enemies of Elohim before the word came. You should know that from Romans 5. Shoot, you should know that from the way you was living your life. Everything, every choice we made, every decision we made, every place we went, most of the activities we partook in made us literally adversaries to him because we were diametrically opposed to his will. So I can't look at Big and be like, oh, he did wrong for doing that, so it's okay for her to do it, because that's not the standard of what they live by. That's why you say those that are outside the house, God gonna judge them. But inside the house, we will look at people and you say autocorrect mess. But inside the house, we'll look at people like, it's all right. It's okay. When he telling you don't fool with him. You want to be a fornicator, sir? Can't fool with you. You want to be covetous, sir? Can't fool with you. You want to be a railer, sir? Can't fool with you. And people don't want to do that. Because you think that's not godly, but that is godly because he not going to fool with them. This ain't no aspect of somebody making a mistake. He said, if any man who called himself a brother and you continually participate in this in behavior, man, I'm not going to be fooled up with you, cuz. Because then it makes it look like that I take pleasure in you doing it and I condone it. And I don't condone that, sir. You want to be a homosexual, that's your business. You just can't be one here. You want to, look here, I tell my son the same thing, not with no homosexual son. You can do whatever you want to do. But that don't mean you're going to do it here. See, that's what people's biggest problem is. You want to control people. I'm not finna control nobody. You can do whatever you want to do, but that don't mean that you got to stay here and do it. That don't mean that I'm going to finance you doing it. Because I'm not. Because we were talking about this other day, right? My son ain't playing no football. You know what I'm saying? Why would I want my son to play football for? If I know that the entertainment / sports industry is strife and rife with all manner of debauchery and wickedness, that nigga talk about all the time, and we talk about people who we know who done talk about the things that they have encountered in the entertainment business, because best believe sports is an entertainment business, and it's listed as an entertainment business for the purpose of antitrust exemptions, and also to not have to be registered with state gaming boards. That's the real reason for it. That's the real reason why the WWE came out and said they were sports entertainment, because before that they had to pay licensing fees with the state boxing commissions and all that stuff like boxers have to do. I know the average person don't know that. That's why he came out and said, no, we sports entertainment. Because they didn't want to go through all of that. Because that's extra money they got to pay. This is part of why the NFL has that. The NFL also has antitrust exemption, which is something that most companies can't have, which allows them effectively to have a monopoly. You know what I'm saying? So they're not subject to trust laws and trust taxes and all that stuff. Look it up. I don't have time to discuss that right now. But nevertheless, when you see that, and you got people who paying people millions of dollars, they want control. Now we sit here and talk about how these people are discussing the fact of, you say it's all in the Him movie. I haven't watched that yet, man. I seen my man Quad been talking about that. He said he did a whole series of lessons pertaining to that movie. People said the movie was trash. I ain't gonna lie. That's not why I seen it. I didn't see it because I didn't care to see it. But I might check it out since you mentioned it just now. But like I said, we knew NFL players who used to fellowship with us, man. Them boys ain't want to talk about what they seen and what going on. Now we'll sit here and talk about how, Harvey Weinstein doing this, and you people watching the Netflix documentary, and you talk about Puff doing this, and the casting couch and all this, that, and the third, and you gonna willfully send your child to that? You gonna willfully send your child to that? That's crazy as hell. That means you don't love your child, man. So you can have the sense to say, I got an NFL player, an NBA player, you hate your child. Because why would you put your child in a situation where they may not have the mental and spiritual fortitude to resist that type of temptation and turn it down while you claiming to be a servant of God? Because no way in the world I send my son to nothing like that. Man, to me, that's equal to taking my son to McDonald's to eat, nigga. You feed your child McDonald's, nigga, you don't love your children. Ain't no way in the world you gonna tell me you love your children, you take that nigga to go get a Big Mac. You know that food don't decay. You know it don't. You know it don't. You know them fries don't decay. You gonna feed that to your jit? This ain't 19. I don't know. The quality of McDonald's might have been different in the 80s and 90s. You know what I'm saying? But you know it's trash now. You gonna take it around there? But you don't love that baby, man. You don't love that baby at all. I'm like, nah, man, my son ain't playing no football, cuz that's not happening. I say, besides the fact, okay, if we keep the Sabbath, you think he finna be under my roof and defile the Sabbath while he in middle school? Defile it while he in high school? Absolutely not. Somebody say, well, he could play it when he go to college. Man, most people don't start playing football when they get to college. It's very few dudes, and they were already playing basketball. See, we can't sit back and say, okay, we serve God until you want your child to do what all these other children out here doing. Is you in the world or is you Kadash? Is you separate or not? Which one is it? You can't do both. Now, once they grown, if he want to do X, Y, Z, he can do it, but he can't live in my house and do it. Because you're not going to live in my house and defile the Sabbath and we keeping the Sabbath every week and preaching every week. Where your son at? Oh, he got a game today. Nigga, what that look like? He can't stay here. He can't stay here. He can do it, but he can't live here. See, I ain't gonna control him, son. You can do whatever you want, but I don't have to finance it. And I don't have to provide you food and shelter and things of this nature to allow you to accomplish that. No, sir, I don't have to do that. That's not my obligation. Well, some people be like, well, you indoctrinate. I ain't indoctrinating nothing. This is the standard that I live by. This is the standard of this house. You don't have to keep nothing. But if you don't want to keep it, you can't live here. Would you let your son sit in your house and sell drugs and you know he's selling drugs and he bringing pistols and dope in your house? Of course you wouldn't, because you don't live by that. And if you would, you're an enabler. But see, we don't want to be having all that because you feel like I'm going to do anything. I ain't doing anything for my children. Nor am I letting my children do whatever they want to do and think that I'm supposed to pay for it, because I'm not. I'm not doing it. I refuse to do it. Because the people who raised me wouldn't do it. You know what I'm saying? So when I was a teenager, the Holiness Church, who the Baptists didn't fellowship with, didn't allow watching movies, makeup, pants. Now I'm 64, and I'm inclined to align with. And I understand. You know, someone be like, you can't watch movies, you can't watch TV. You know what I'm saying? If that's the rules of your house, that's the rules of your house. Because that's your house. And you can set whatever standards you want in your house. You know what I'm saying? That's why I've always told you men, like, hey, bro, it's not my job to tell you what to do in your house. My job is to tell you what this word say, how we supposed to behave, how we supposed to operate. Now, whatever parameters you set up in your house that are not contrary, because the only thing is, if it's contrary to the word, I gotta let you know, hey, boy, you know that's not what to do. Outside of that, if you be like, nah, my kids ain't watching no movies and TV, who am I to tell you? You need to let them kids do that. That's not my place. That's not my house. If that's the rules of your house, that's the rules of your house. That ain't got nothing to do with me. If you want to let your kids sit up and watch movies all day long, that's your business. But just know there's a consequence that's gonna come from that. You know what I'm saying? Say them sports expensive too. So I'm glad my daughter quit all hers. They are expensive now. They ain't like it was when I was young, man. You know what I'm saying? But I'm just mentioning that because I wouldn't leave. I don't want my son to be a part of a business, of an industry that I know has satanic undertones attached to it. Not because the business is satanic, but because the people who are movers and shakers in it behave in an adversarial way towards the living Elohim. So why would I steer him in that direction while professing godliness out my mouth? Why would I do that? That doesn't make sense. You know what I'm saying? That doesn't make sense. If this is the standard that we holding, and the difference is, you say you did a jujitsu for confidence, and nothing wrong with that. Listen, whatever you steered him to or whatever it is, you should sit down and keep it 100 with it and explain it to him. She say most movies made after 2019 are filthy, even PG-13. I don't doubt it. You know what I'm saying? I'm not a movie watcher like that, so I don't doubt it. And I'm not a movie watcher for no other reason because I never have been, for real. Like, I ain't somebody like I got to catch the newest movie or shit like that in the third. I never really have been, so it's not really my thing. You know what I mean? I watch one here and there, but shoot, I don't really do nothing but look at sports and wrestling for real. Might watch the first 48. That's about it. And who knows how long I'll be watching the first 48. Just happen to be what I'm looking at right now. You know what I'm saying? I might not watch that no more. There was a time period I watched Storage Wars, and then they stopped. So, yeah, that's how that goes. But, yeah, you know what I'm saying? Them your kids, so it's not my place. I know my son ain't playing none of that stuff because my son is not a dancing monkey. He's not here to run, jump, step, or fetch for the entertainment of others. You know what I'm saying? I know we like to look at athletics for the discipline and the competition and all that, and it has their places, and that's cool. But my son not doing that. You know what I'm saying? Absolutely not. Not even going to craft him a mentality of that. I don't need you running up and down nobody's field. Your life greater than that. You got more things that you can accomplish than, as Shannon Sharp put it, stand 7 yards from your garage door and run into it 63 times. And that's for 20 times, 20 Sundays a year for 14 years. And he tell you that's what it's like to play professional football. No, I'm good on that. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, he don't need to do all that. It's got, you know what I'm saying? Got a bigger fish to fry. You know what I'm saying? Craft a different type of mentality and thought process for him to accomplish than just athletics. You know what I'm saying? I only mention that, and I've always had this thought process because a lot of the times our people seem to just want to limit our young men to just being athletes and entertainers, and they can be ever so much more. You know what I'm saying? Ever so much more. You know what I'm saying? Just not an athlete or entertainer. You more than that. There's more complexity and sides to quote unquote black men than just being an athlete. You know what I'm saying? We were talking about it earlier today. You know, we allow these people to craft images and thought processes of ourselves. Just like we were talking about that people always consistently feed into the stereotype that black men don't take care of their children when that is just not factual. And that we don't be looking at the fact that the stuff that they ridicule black people for, white people have it too. White women have multiple baby daddies just like you do. White men have multiple baby mamas just the same. They have just the same amount of chaos and dysfunction that they claim that we have, if not exponentially more. You know what I'm saying? They just don't celebrate it and exploit it or allow themselves to be exploited as it pertains to those type of things. You know what I'm saying? We identify with those things and then perpetuate those stereotypes on ourselves more frequently than the people who created it. Because the whole red pill movement and all that type of stuff, man, that came from white men. You didn't create that. You just latched onto it harder than them. But you didn't create that. That's not your life. That's not your reality. You know what I mean? Like, not like they want you to believe. You know what I'm saying? Like people say they always scream black men don't take care of their kids. But then, and I told several women this over the years, but the reality is most men don't effectively know men who don't take care of their kids. Like we know of dudes who don't take care of their kids. We know as dudes what women who have children and the man not around. But the mass majority of men that everybody knows, they take care of their kids. Or their kids live with them. Like straight up. Like the people go with the stereotype that they believe that just black men just hanging out with niggas who don't take care of their kids and don't nobody say nothing. Most black men don't hang with niggas who don't take care of their kids. I don't want this nigga around me. Like they be like, when the last time you asked your homeboy when he seen his kids? I ain't gotta ask him when he seen his kids because he always got them. That's not a question I have to ask. You know what I'm saying? Because we ain't hanging with niggas who won't take care of their kids. I know a lot of dudes, man, who I grew up with, man. I don't know any of them who don't take care of their kids. I don't. You know what I'm saying? I really don't. And we have to stop allowing people to perpetuate that on you. Just like all our women ain't whores. You know what I'm saying? Loud mouth and ratchet. That's just the image that they allow you to put out there, and then you want to identify with it. Even though that's not your life because you think it's cool because it's music, this, that, there, and the third, you have to take control of your image. No, I'm not like that, and I'm not identifying with something that is diametrically opposed to me because I think it's fun and it's cute. It's not fun and it's not cute. That's not, especially if that's not who you are, because you identifying with that, even though that's not who you are, people who don't know that are going to identify with you with it also. When you have to be like, oh no, we don't do none of that. Because then we would have to ask ourselves, why do we have a desire to identify with degenerates? I get it. You like the music or whatever the case may be, but why do you want to identify with a degenerate? Why do you want to identify with a world that you ain't never seen, never been a part of? Why do you even think it's cool? You know what I'm saying? That's the stuff we have to ask ourselves because the youth pick up on that, especially if you talking about, oh, I'm godly. You know what I'm saying? I seen like somebody posted this other day, man. I think it was on Instagram, man. And you know, people be clowning about it, and I get it because we done talk about that in here plenty of times. You know, you listen to music, you think you a gangster, but then you got to ask yourself, why do you want to be a gangster? You know what come along with the life of a gangster? Why would you want to identify with that? Okay, they talking about city girl type stuff, that's effectively a prostitute. Why would you want to identify with a woman who's a man's human sexual toy? You know what I'm saying? Something that he uses to release his bodily fluids on. Why would you want to identify with that and get in return? She get cash and trips. Why would you want to identify with the lowest grade of woman walking the earth? Because she got expensive stuff on, but effectively she's a whore. Why would you want to identify with that? You know what I'm saying? Why would you want to identify with a nigga who peddles narcotics? You know what come along with that? Why would you want to identify with that? What about that strikes you like that's something that I would want to pretend to be? You know, you turn around and doing the same stuff you pick at white people for doing, who want to identify as black until it's time to be black, and then you want to go back to being white. So why do you want to identify as a criminal or a whore, but then go back to being a lady and a contributing positive member of society? When that's not your life, you never seen it, you never was a part of it, you never was ingrained in it, that ain't nothing you ever did. So why does that enamor us? And these are real stuff you have to ask yourself, like, why are you enamored with this? Because, you know, black people are the only race of people where you can't be a regular person, you got to be a gangster. Now, there's criminal elements in every nationality of people on the earth. You know what I'm saying? You know, we didn't talk about it before. It's Chinese mob, Russian mob, Italian mob, Irish mob. They all got a criminal element. But they also are allowed to be regular. There's no pressure in their brain to what they think they have to portray to be a thug or a gangster. Our people don't have that. Niggas feel like they have to grow up to be that, and that their blackness is defined by coming from the hood or coming from some poverty or being in the street. Like, you know, black people are multifaceted. Everybody don't come from the hood. Everybody ain't had to do no crimes. Some people come from middle-class households. Some people come from upper middle-class households. We're talking about that. You remember the episode from Fresh Prince when Carlton wanted to join the fraternity and they didn't want to let him join because they said he wasn't black enough because of where he come from and how he talked and how he dressed. Why is his blackness defined by the fact that he don't use certain lingo or he don't dress? Like, we the only people who do that. That junk is retarded. Like, damn, he ain't black because he wasn't poor, and his people were married and they still black. He still got to deal with the same stuff that you got to deal with. And that's where it come in, where kids who come from these type of homes feel like that they have to pretend to be this poor hood nigga. Or they think that being the poor hood nigga gonna get them accepted. I'm from the hood. I'm this, that, and the third. No, nigga, you lame as hell. You know what I'm saying? And we perpetuate this person becoming that because we think that that's what blackness is and that would make you 100. And it don't. You know what I'm saying? So then we have to ask ourselves, like, why am I enamored with that? I should be thankful that I ain't have to live that. Like, to sit back them last, well, it's not as bad now. You know, the last maybe, 3-4 years and listen to all these female artists and women go crazy about a woman who telling you to be a slut for pay. And you identified with that and you perpetuated that. But would you go look your daughter in the face and tell her what these records is talking about? While you dancing around to it and thinking it's cool, and you wonder why your daughter grow up and be a slur.